Oh, we're live. I can't
We're
say.
live now, yeah. You'll have to tell me about that after the show. Or you can, yeah, I don't know if it's for air or what.
I don't even know
But
what
we
I was
are
going to
on the
say.
air, so I
So,
mean,
hello, Vinny. Good morning to you. It's a wacky Wednesday.
hello, Michael Knight down here in Pasadena. Yes, it is a wacky Wednesday when much is going on, and boy, oh boy, there's no shortage of breaking and unbreaking news this morning, is there?
No, they caught the convict he did his best to stay away from the cops, but there were just too damn many of them.
It took a dog to find him, but in a little heat-seeking DEA stuff. But yeah, they finally got him.
What kind of dog was it? Do we know?
I don't know which one. There was two dogs. There was the German Shepherd was one, and then some
Malinois.
kind of British something or other police dog that I don't. I'd never even heard the name before, but so I don't know. They didn't say which one it was. I guess they were trying to protect his identity. Although,
One of the most popular police dogs is a Belgian Malinois,
yeah, I
which
think that's it. A Belgian. Maybe it wasn't British. Maybe it was
is
Belgian.
a remarkable dog. The Germans tried to kill them all because they would go behind enemy lines and get the Germans just by the neck and just one down, two down, silently doing their work. And they called them the devil dogs. A friend of mine loved Malinois dogs so much that he told stories about them. One being the guy left his Malinois in the back seat, knowing that no one would steal his car because who would mess with a Belgian Malinois, right? Well,
Unless you don't know what it is, right?
it turned out this guy did not know there was a dog in the back seat as he attempted to steal the car. He got into the driver's seat and didn't even get the engine cranked on when the Malinois locked him around the neck and killed him right then and there. And the police had to get the owner to release the dog. And they looked in the car and saw the Malinois, and the cop said, "Nope, nope, we're not messing with this. The guy's already gone. Once a couple hours, one way or the other. We'll wait for the owner. I'm not going in that car."
Yeah,
They
it's
are remarkable dogs.
yeah, I saw the dog, it's a beautiful dog, and again, I don't know exactly where exactly, what their history is like as you do, but I know that was the dog that I think that was the dog that captured him. He certainly wasn't, you know, it seems like he had the rifle with him that he had stolen. I want to talk
Yes,
about that in a second. Um,
that was a little weird.
The
Even the
rifle,
cops
yeah,
thought
the
so.
rifle he'd stolen was with him, but he didn't use it, or he hadn't the chance to use it. This dog, and he had bite marks on his head, so maybe it was the Belgian. Yeah, the Belgian was going to just take his neck out, and I don't think anybody would have felt bad about that. A couple of things that I noticed from this morning, and again, congratulations to the law enforcement people.
They were
Uh,
for days.
yeah, I mean, there were 2 weeks trying to find this guy, and I mean, this guy knew how to transverse or to traverse the woods, to get through where he wanted to go. He eluded them, and I used the word properly, and I'm eluded, not eluded.
Correct.
He eluded them by traveling at night,
Stealth.
traveling at wearing dark clothes. I mean, people say, "Oh, dark clothes," but yeah, I mean, he's wearing dark clothes. You can't see him in the woods. And
Yeah.
going through an area of the suburban Philadelphia where it is, it borders on the country and suburbia. So
It's
you have
woodsy.
houses out there. Where he was caught is out by Norristown, out by north of Westchester, northwest of Philadelphia. It's I'm actually pretty familiar with that area. There's the New Jersey. Listen to me. The Pennsylvania Turnpike runs almost right by where they caught him. It's probably less than a mile away from the turnpike,
What
which
is
is
what is a turnpike? Is it something that we all use to turn something with?
yeah, turnpike. Well, turnpike was what they called a limited access road back in the days before the Eisenhower interstate system.
Huh.
Was you didn't have freeways back then.
It's a great
Uh,
word, turnpike.
Turnpike, yeah, and it comes from the Boston Post Road was an all access road. There were streets that ran off it, and it went all the way from New York up to Boston, and that's how they got was started as a stagecoach horse trail to go
Right.
back and forth. The turnpike offered, I guess, a different type of road that had more limited access, more limited facilities,
Hmm.
and it was popular to use on these different limited access toll roads back
So the road from New York to Boston was called the Boston Road?
Boston Post Road. Yeah,
That ain't gonna work. Can't we call it the New York Post Road?
no, it was called the Boston Post Road because that's how they got stuff up. That's how they got mail up to Boston. I guess the majority of the mail came into New York, into the port of New York, and then they put it on a stagecoach or in a, give it to Paul Revere or something like that, and bada boom, up
So,
the.
well, I'm telling you right now, the Yankees are not gonna use that road. They're gonna have to fly. They will not use the road called Boston.
There's many people that won't use the road called Boston. They will take the Connecticut Turnpike, which runs next to it.
Go
Uh,
around, idiot.
right,
Yeah.
The Boston Road is U.S. Route 1. Or the Boston
Really?
Post Road. It's U.S. Route
It's
1, and one runs from Florida
US. Yeah.
all the way up to Maine.
Well, I've been on that damn road. I didn't even know it. I
Yeah,
did a lot of traveling on Highway 1,
yeah,
Florida
US
style.
1, and then of course in Florida there's A1A, which goes closer to the water, goes along that where it's
The
divided with the
inland
Indian River.
the Indian water, I mean, the inland waterway.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that was Jimmy
So
Buffett's first album, A1A, one of his first successful albums.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes. And so that uh you know that so that road US 1 runs all the way up through. There's two roads in the east that run uh, from all the way down to all the way up. US 1 runs from, I don't know if it's Miami, it may be north of Miami, but I think it is Miami. Or actually, US 1, I think, runs to the Keys, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right, yes.
Yeah, I think it goes from the Keys all the way up to the end of Maine. And then there's US 19, which is west of US 1, and that runs I forget the bottom, but I think the bottom might be in like Tallahassee or something like that,
And then it
and
goes
runs
straight
all the
up
way
to
up to the Canadian border.
that one I've been on.
Yeah, it goes up through Pennsylvania, West Virginia. It's US 19. I've driven a great portion of US 19 from the Canadian border down to, boy, I want to say Georgia, or at least South Carolina.
I believe you're right about Georgia because I drove that from Miami to New York on the weekend that Martin Luther King was assassinated. And driving through the South was like nobody was home. There was no one on the streets. When we got to New York, Times Square was blocked off. There was
Yeah,
20,000 cops, and they had their trailers and everything. But it was a sort of an eye opener how quiet the world was on 19 going through the South.
yeah, 19 and 1. Well, 19 doesn't 19 I don't know that 19 ever goes to New York. You probably were on 1, maybe
We had to
one up
get
to 19 and then one across, because 19 goes up through Pennsylvania and ends, I believe, in Erie, Pennsylvania.
wow.
So it misses New
Is,
York by, it's right by it.
is there a
It ends in
17?
that little piece of, there's a little piece of Pennsylvania that abuts Lake Erie.
Wait a minute. There's a song there somewhere.
There's a little
There's
piece of Pennsylvania that abuts.
there's a song there, baby.
So, but both of those, again, are, used to be major routes going up and down the East Coast. And certainly 19 was, more your Western Pennsylvania coal carrying route to go up to Lake Erie to
I
load
have
coal
I
on
have
the
a
ships
question.
that would take it, or they would take it the other way out through the Ohio and out toward Cleveland. But it was one of those places where one of those routes that had started out as a horse route, for trading, and then turned into a
Wow.
roadway. Now it's it's just a 2-lane highway.
I have a
But
question for New York Vinnie. With the Edsels behind you, reasonably described as wearing New York Jet green, how did you become a Jets fan? You were there when they started. You were there when they were founded. You were there when they began. Were you ever a New York Giants fan?
no,
When it came to football, you were immediately aligned with the Jets. Jets.
right, much the same as the dividing line for Mets and Yankees are, in the boroughs, according to where you lived. The Jets, when they were the Titans, played at the Polo Grounds for the first couple of years and then moved to Shea Stadium
Holy moly, that's some
when
history.
Shea opened up. So they were really the hometown team because they were just a couple of blocks from where I lived. And they had this guy named Joe Namath who was, brash and, anti-establishment in a time when
But lovable, always lovable.
always lovable, but in a time when my heroes were all anti-establishment heroes, so it was, he was a natural athlete
Yeah.
for me. It's funny. I always loved Tom Seaver, and Tom Seaver with the Mets was the zenith of establishment.
Captain America.
Short hair and always spoke correctly, and he was just that all-American boy. And then you had for football, you had their best pitcher, quarterback was Joe Namath, and he was wearing pantyhose to keep warm and fur coats, and got involved with seedy characters in Manhattan.
What's
He
not to
was
love?
he was everything that your mom didn't want you to be, and so he became a natural for love him.
And then he did what he can never be forgotten for. He won it all.
Well, he backed up what he said. He wrote it. He wrote a check out with his mouth that his arm could cash, and that that endeared him not only to New Yorkers because they loved it,
Of course.
but it was a golden time in New York City sports. Because you had the Knicks, who had won the NBA championship, the Jets, who won the NFL, and then the Mets the next summer winning the World Series,
Let's go Mets.
all in 1 year. And they said these things would only happen that the Mets, the popular thing was the Mets will win a pennant when Man Walks on the Moon. Well, on July, what was it, 20th, Man walked on the moon, and the Mets all of a sudden started to climb up the standings.
Lo and behold.
So anybody who doesn't believe in that kind of metaphysical, fickle finger of fate kind of things, they'll need only to look at the year 1969 in New York and realize that there was some kind of destiny for those particular teams, and the Jets
Now,
have done absolutely nothing since. Many people have walked on the moon,
yes.
but the Jets have not seen fit to win anything close to a championship
So
in that time.
they make a big move, maybe their biggest move in terms of personnel. They gamble, they invest, they coach, they prepare, they're ready. They're the number one question mark in the NFL. They take the field on Monday Night Football against a good team, the Bills. And it was a tragedy that turned into a miracle.
4 plays into it, yeah, 4 play. I mean, it's everybody, all the commentators and everybody was saying the Jets were dead in the water. That's it.
I was watching Eli and Peyton, and Peyton thought he was going to get up. He said, "Come on, this can't be. Walk him to the sideline, give him some smelling salts. It's going to be okay." But
Yeah,
it wasn't going to be okay.
Now, when you saw the slow-mo of that injury, you knew that
Oh God.
it was not it was not good. I mean, it didn't take an expert, and I think I was watching the regular feed, and they who you call it, Aikman immediately
He knew.
he knew, yeah, he knew right away, man. He said, I think he said something to the effect of, "Don't expect him back, at least this game," and as it turned out, I mean, he didn't even come back out. I don't think after. I think he was probably taken right to the hospital
Yeah.
and for serious X-rays and ultrasounds and
I
all
think
the
any
other
I think
stuff.
any orthopedic guy would have called that one from the couch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was probably rushed over to. I don't know if they go over to special surgery like the Mets do.
Well, you
I
got
don't.
to have the if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you got to have the right surgeon, someone who's put some Achilles tendons back for other quarterbacks who have
Right,
returned.
right. And they have the best in New York. I mean, they're they're orthopedic. It's the mecca for orthopedic surgeons. L.A. and New York are the two places where the surgeons are, the orthopedic and um, all hand and leg, hand and
Yeah,
foot guys and
specialists.
women
Yeah,
are located in the hospital for special surgery. Um, is the hospital in New York that they did my ankle there back in 1965, and they were known for that stuff then.
yeah.
And they've only become more specialized in those types of sports injuries and deformities of the bone and stuff like that. So they know what to do. Again, I don't know if that's where he went for his treatment, or that's where he's going to go for his surgery. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was that. I mean, there's a couple of hospitals in New York that specialize in orthopedics. But the good thing about orthopedics in New York is that there was so many good orthopedic doctors in New York and technicians that you could go to a city hospital
You get a pro.
and get a pro. When I got into my motorcycle accident, I got a guy that had served his time at Hospital for Joint Diseases, which
Yeah.
was the competing orthopedic hospital with special surgery. And these were, and I was in a city hospital, but these guys were top line doctors that had come from maybe I don't know if they couldn't get a slot in joint diseases or what, but the, the orthopedist that I had to put my leg back together was top notch. This guy knew what he was doing, and his team, even guys like the guy who put the cast on,
Specialists.
was a specialist and knew what he was doing and had worked at. I think the guy who put the cast on, Meredith, was his name, Meredith Nielsen. I'll never forget him. Um, Worked at was a technician at Hospital for Special Surgery, and had actually I remember him from the cast room at Hospital for Special Surgery, because I used to have to go over when I had the operation on my left leg. I used to have to go over to special surgery and get my cast done like every 2 weeks because I was growing. I was 10 years old, and
Wow.
these guys knew. And Meredith Nielsen, I had seen him there, and then I saw him. This was 65. Then 72, he was over in Elmhurst, and that was one of the
It's,
great things about that. You could go to a city hospital in New York and get great orthopedic treatment. Uh,
Vinnie, get in here.
yeah,
Let's check out this cast.
let's look. And I put him through work with the cast in 72, man. I mean, I was 16 years old, man. I was going swimming in the damn thing, and
I knew you must have.
I'd
Must have
come
been
back on
a
come back
very
on Monday,
difficult
man,
thing.
and the cast would be tattered, like, oh, but he always fixed it up. It was Monday. He knew he was going to see me.
Well, the Achilles tendon repair is like a miracle. It doesn't make sense, but it's fascinating. I had it explained to me by an orthopedic surgeon who did my biceps tendon. The biceps tendon is the Achilles tendon of the arm, and they snap when they are fully extended and then you ask 1 more inch out of it. Or in this case, it was fully extended, and the guy that had Aaron Rodgers by the upper body spun him when his toe was in the AstroTurf. By the way, the Players Association today are saying grass for all stadiums. If you don't want this to happen to your quarterback, install grass instead of AstroTurf.
Well, that's what they sold us when they built these stadiums, right?
Yeah,
That they were open.
last forever. It's going to be beautiful. Save you money. Save you a fortune.
Yeah, I just
the Achilles tendon looks like a series of spaghetti strands that run from the calf all the way to the bottom of the heel. And when they snap, they become what they call mop ends. They just go up the leg. They snap. They're tight like a guitar string. Whoop! They roll up. They bring them down in surgery with a little tiny incision at the heel. Reach up and get them. Bring them down, and then they attach them in some magical form and say, now don't move that for 9 months. It's got to heal on its own before you even walk on it, using the tendon the way it was meant to be done. And if you screw this up and you ruin this surgery and we have to go back, your tendon is no good anymore. We have to get a cadaver tendon to take the place. So remember that when you think you're going to get up and run to the door just to get the paper. Hold on. Do you want a cadaver tendon that badly, or can it wait? And it's a serious recovery period that does not allow for any exercise until the healing is complete.
Well, I learned about tendons when I was around 10, because the original doctor that had attended my ankle and my club foot had wanted, and the accepted operation in those days to cure a club foot was to cut the Achilles tendon.
Why?
And the foot would
relax,
and it would give you some sense of normalcy, although more than likely it would put you in a wheelchair for the rest of your life.
Not much of a deal.
Or with some kind of, you'd have to use some kind of walking device. I think they told me I'd have to use a Canadian crutch. And my father, bless his heart, somehow, my father was not a, by any stretch of the imagination, a medical authority or anything. But he had sense enough to know that didn't sound right. And so took me from this guy that was out, that had been attending me for years, back over to the hospital for special surgery, and went to them and said, no, don't let this guy do that. Luckily he was smart enough, my father, to go get a second opinion.
That's so important.
And sure enough, they said, no, listen, we have this operation. That's a new operation. Matter of fact, we haven't even done it we've done it to one girl. That's all. That's what we've done. One girl we've done it on. Your son would be the first boy that we try it on. And in those days, it was still, it was a difference.
Experimental.
And my father said, well, what does it involve? And then they said, we're going to take the 3 bones in the ankle and fuse them together, and you'll have less movement in the foot, but you won't have to snap your Achilles. You'll be able to play some sports, not everything. They never told me about the pain, but they probably just didn't know about how much pain it was going to be. And we're gonna fuse it together. We're gonna put some screws and staples in there, and that should hold it together for a long period of time.
And you never had to have it attended to. Wow.
Well, again, I always felt that there was something else they could have done for me later. But when I went back to special surgery, the guy started talking about amputating my leg. So I was,
that's when you get another second opinion.
Yeah, so I said, you know what, I'm good at these second opinions, and so I said the choice is we could take the leg off, or you could live with the pain, and we'll try to manage the pain. And I said, I don't think I'm going to be one of those people that are going to do real good with an artificial leg.
No.
I mean, although now it's much improved, still, I just didn't want that to happen. So I just, I'll live with the pain. And I'm sure that now they have some kind of, I'm sure they could go in there now
Fix it
and
up.
do something to alleviate the pain. I've never gone back and looked at it since I went back in 2007, and that's when the guy wanted to amputate my leg, and I said, you know what? I don't think I'll ever come back to this hospital again, and that was special surgery actually. And I mean, from time to time, I wear a brace, but yeah, anytime anything that messes with your ankle, your leg, your femur, your tibula, your fibula, anything that does has to do with the tendons, uh, and walking or running or anything. I mean, the fact that I can even walk is a miracle, and I don't think I had a serious an injury. Well, maybe I did, as Aaron Rodgers, but yeah, they tell you with the Achilles tendon.
I
You
think
get
yours
one
was.
shot at it.
I think yours was more serious than
Oh,
Aaron
yeah,
Rodgers because people
yeah,
fix Achilles
probably in the
tendons.
long run, but, yeah, you get one shot with the Achilles tendon, and I'm just
Mm.
hoping that Aaron Rodgers doesn't decide to go to some kind of, you know, voodoo, healer or something like that to get it done, and then decides and if they tell him he's gotta take a vaccination to get operated on, he shuts his mouth and takes the vaccination.
I hope I hope he doesn't act a fool because it'll screw him up. There's an opportunity he won't come back, but I have a feeling that he will. I don't think anybody wants to go out sitting on the turf.
Yeah, I think that there's, I think that yeah, some of the tough guys, and listen, I could take away from Aaron Rodgers' political views, and they don't align with mine, but you can't take away that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, that he does for a team what he's that magic cocktail of one player
Yep.
that comes in and lifts the team up. And
But
it,
that's
it was
that's how the Jets but that's how the Jets won. They had a magic cocktail of stars that performed 3 interceptions in a night. I don't know when's the last time there's been an NFL game with 3 interceptions in a night by one guy,
yeah,
and the run back for the walk-off punt return, and the fact that the quarterback was not at his best, but he wasn't prepared to be at his best. He wasn't given the snaps and the
right.
ability to compete. The fact that he won that game or was part of the victory was another miracle.
He did enough to give them the opportunity to win. He
Yep.
needed to have I forget who it was now that made the catch in the corner of the end zone for the go ahead touchdown, but to sit that put them ahead at the time. Of course, Green Bay came back. But it was interesting is that the defense, which the Jets have had for so long, faltered a little bit, and the offense and special teams picked them up. Now, I'm not here to tell you that the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl or they're going to do, I mean, there was so much talk about that with Aaron Rodgers. I don't even think that talk was justified with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, yeah, they should get into the playoffs. They
Right.
should be a quality team, a team that you could go bet on each week if you wanted to. But I think the Super Bowl talk was a little overblown.
Well, they
But
have a talented team, and they showed it that night.
right,
Interesting thing about it is they also took advantage of the Bills, who sucked, who had a terrible night.
right. That they had a they succumbed to the crowd, the hype, whatever it was, but they didn't look like the Bills
No.
that we're used to seeing. Because I keep an eye on the Bills because they are, after all, New York's only football team. So so I mean, and compared to the whooping that the Giants had just a day earlier in that
Oh
in
my
that same
god.
stadium,
Unbelievable.
where they just got taken apart, you wanted to see something out of the Jets. Even if you weren't a Jets fan, you wanted to see at least the whole weekend not be a waste. And the Jets and some players, especially a young rookie, Gibson, provided them. And people forget this about that run, the phantom call. There was I forget who it was that came across and tripped one of the Bills players.
Oh, with like a leg whip.
Well, yeah, when Gibson was running up and the last guy that came across the block that could have blocked him got leg tripped.
Yeah.
And the officials didn't call it, didn't go back and look at it. They knew, I don't know if the officials saw it, maybe somebody didn't see it, or maybe they just decided that we're not going to mess with this crowd. We want to get out of here alive.
Or it's incidental.
Yeah. There's going to be, if we call this thing, there's going to be a riot here, and and let the better angels go ahead and take their bow.
I love the game for a number of reasons. There was so much drama in it. There was so much down. There was negative about the game, about the NFL, about the field, about the turf, about Rodgers and his career. But to watch the faces of the crowd sink into, holy moly, I can't believe I'm watching this. I hurried to get to this game. I took a day off from work. I did all the following things to be here tonight, and look at this mess. And then, wisely, not to get up and go home, but to watch the game and see how it turns out, and then be there for the end, to be to watch the head coach Salah run to the end zone and jump around with the players. I mean,
well, Jet fans are used to this. I mean, you think about it. They've had two quarterbacks previously that have been first-round top picks. Geno Smith and why am I forgetting his name? And even before that, Mark Sanchez. There's been three quarterbacks in succession in New York that was supposed to be the biggest thing since sliced bread, and haven't done much of anything.
One of the reasons is they had the same fate as
them.
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had 4 plays from scrimmage. He got sacked twice in 4 plays, if you remember.
Right. There's a curse
Yeah.
on the Jets quarterback. I mean, I still believe that, that there's some kind of voodoo going on there. There hasn't, again, their best successes have been when they have brought quarterbacks in from other teams, which is why I think they went ahead and rolled the dice and spent the money on Rodgers, because they were fairly successful when they brought Vinnie Testaverde in. They were fairly successful when they brought Brett Favre in, and they were hoping to catch a little bit of that lightning in a bottle. And
I heard the name Colin Kaepernick used yesterday as a possible backup.
Well, he's come up, he's come up for every job now. I gotta start to wonder if what his playing abilities are. What's his, can he still throw a football?
Well,
does he still have the speed? I mean, I wouldn't mind the Jets giving him a look.
Right.
I haven't, for the past few years, I haven't bought the theory that teams are just against bringing him in because of what he did, because we have in Kansas City the other day people singing the Negro national anthem or the Black national anthem before the Star Spangled Banner. So, I mean, if that's going on, I think at some point you got to say that it's not because of what he did that he's not getting a look. See, it's not because of Trump. It's not because of this. It might be because his ability to play quarterback in the National Football League.
That I don't know. I think his last look was 2 years ago when Seattle gave him.
I think the Seahawks were, and if the Seahawks didn't bring him in, that's probably got to tell you something right there, because if there was a place where he would have been comfortable
Right.
that there would have been a situation that he would have felt comfortable in, probably would have been the Seahawks.
Well, there's Joe Flacco.
Yeah. I mean, there's guys out there. There's was it Fultz is out there right there. I mean, there's a few guys out there. So that I mean, I'm sure that they're going to go out and spend do their due diligence to bring that there's somebody out there. I think they had Flacco last year, didn't they?
Somebody had Flacco last
Yeah,
year.
I think the Jets had Flacco last year. I mean, that's another guy. I mean, you got to wonder if his best days are behind him.
Well, his Super Bowl's behind him, but so is Colin Kaepernick's. If you want to add up who's been to the Super Bowl, Flacco won his, Colin lost his, but just getting there is an achievement.
You know what I always wondered about with Colin Kaepernick, and I don't know why, I don't know if, but I always wondered why he didn't just go to the CFL for a year and play there and show what he had. And I think that if he would have, maybe he should have gone to the CFL for a year and played for the Montreal Alouettes or whomever, and it would have, I think, forced the hand of some team in the NFL because they're in public view. He could have either led a team to the Grey Cup or faltered.
He showed his stuff. Yeah.
The question would have been over, right? And I'm sure that some CFL team would have given him a shot.
I think you're probably right. And there's no more European League, no team in Rotterdam or London anymore.
Right, but that was all run by the NFL.
Yeah,
so
they would have iced him.
Yeah, the way you would have forced the issue, I think, and I've always thought, is that you go to the CFL, you play there for a season. All those games will be picked up by somebody because you're a major national interest, sports interest story.
Sports Center.
As a matter of fact, the games are on CBS Sports, the CFL games, and you would have been able to show, oh yeah, I still got it, or I don't have it, which always leads me to wonder if he just doesn't have it anymore.
Well, look, it seems to me that the Jets are going to put all their chips on the kid. They're going to let him prepare. He must know the playbook better than he showed the other night. One thing that Peyton Manning was saying is this kid cannot throw the ball. Not that he's not able to. The rule is no passes. We're going to run the ball all night.
It was painfully obvious.
We're not going to throw the ball. Not to anybody, not any time. Not even going to pretend that we're going to throw the ball. We're going to run the ball.
He did throw the ball. I mean, until he, in that fourth quarter when he connected up with, again, his name is slipping by me, but when he connected up on that unbelievable catch,
in the
where he was juggling the ball, I'm almost surprised they didn't call. They didn't have possession of the ball, but he did. He pulled the ball in and he went down with the ball, and it was a touchdown. But that was easily the best catch of the year.
Well, where did he go to college, Derek? Where did he go to school?
I don't know. I forget. But wherever it was, they taught him how to use his hands.
Well, the load of the team is now on the kid. And I refer to Brock Purdy as to what can happen if your kid is prepared and he's settled in his persona as a quarterback. He's not jittery. He's not frightened of it. He's not unusual. He's not unaccustomed to it. You could have another Brock Purdy in the making if things turn out well.
Yeah, but you still have to bring in, because you don't have a backup. Who's your backup quarterback now?
Well, they did sign a backup, but he's also a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, you need, you have to find somebody with some experience. You have to find, and like you said, whether they bring Flacco back, whoever it is that they feel, I mean, they could call Tom Brady up. See what
I'm sure that, it's probably already been discussed.
I'm sure that some tabloid has said, if you brought it, now I don't know what kind of room they have under the cap to bring somebody in.
Well, they're going to have to pay a luxury tax, but not for a backup quarterback, surely.
Well, again, who knows what? I don't know what how. I forget now how the injury. If they get a credit for Rodgers being injured and
Because
out
of
for the
the
season.
cap money.
Yeah,
And,
against the cap.
the backup quarterback is far more important now in football than it was when we were kids. If I'm referred to Brock Purdy, remember he hurt his arm in the Super Bowl. His backup got hurt, and the 49ers played the rest of the game with a third string quarterback that played other positions. I mean, they were making phone calls to the taxi squad. Hi, I
Yeah.
don't remember your name. Are you the quarterback? Yeah. Well, what is your name?
Get up here. Get in
Yes,
here.
get in your uniform and get it in here.
Yeah, it was it'll be interesting to see and to watch the papers and see what names come up as possibles uh, for their for their list for their team, but they're going to have to get somebody in because the schedule continues. Everything doesn't stop because Aaron Rodgers got hurt.
No, no,
Everything
things become more intense because now what was thought to be a certainty is a big question mark.
well, and it was pointed out many times on Monday Night Football is that Aaron Rodgers is a different kind of quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who makes it up as he goes along. He
Yeah.
has that luxury, and so this is what this whole team was trained for, to set up with Aaron Rodgers type of play, and now he's not there. Now, um, so not only do you lose Aaron Rodgers, but you lose the ability to run the offense
Yeah. The
that you
way you
wanted
want it.
to run. So now you have to get everybody somehow used to a different type of offense, depending on whether you stick with the kid or you bring somebody else in. Now you're going to have to teach everybody something new after they've been training for how many weeks?
That's why I think they're going to stick with the kid, because if you bring in Joe Flacco or Colin Kaepernick, that's all very well and good. You've made a gamble, you've made a decision, but that quarterback doesn't know your plays. He doesn't know the system. He doesn't know anything about it. Doesn't know the nomenclature.
Well, I
You
don't even know. I don't even know 100% that the kid knew the nomenclature. I mean,
well,
it was
that's
so
a good
Rodgers was
point.
so and one of the things they did with Rodgers over the training camp is they let him, in essence, be the quarterback's coach.
Yep. Here's
They
how we're
let
going to do
him,
this.
they let him be the run the offense and show these. I mean, they had his offensive coordinator there, but he was, Rodgers was the guy that was putting in the plays and doing this and papa da papa da pa. Now you have a whole different situation. I don't know. Maybe the Jets will talk to Denver and bring in Russell Wilson.
Because like the
I bet
Broncos aren't using him.
reunite those two guys
Wow.
from last year's "I don't have faith in you" play on Monday Night Football with the Seahawks and the.
Well, Russell Wilson didn't look any better in his opening games than he did last year. It looked like a continuation of we're almost a team. They just can't get it right with another head
Yeah,
coach.
well, who knows about him? I know that he's not the quarterback now that he was here. He wasn't the quarterback he was here the last year he was here.
No, the last 2 years.
So he's got 2 years of not being the quarterback that he was in total, and if he goes a third year, he becomes the guy who used to be Russell Wilson.
And Sean Payton becomes the guy who made a mistake by going to Denver when he could have just stayed in the broadcast box and might have made a nice living that way.
Well, good thing about Denver is they'll go find somebody else.
But that's been their story for the last 10 years. They always have to go out and fix their trade mistake.
Yeah, they always seem to be able to find somebody, and that's good on them. I mean, they brought in Peyton Manning when everybody thought that Peyton was done after his operation
on his neck,
and he took him to a Super Bowl.
What Peyton said was, "There are no plays for number 2," referring to Derek. So this kid's got no plays in his pocket. No plays have been called because of his strengths. No plays have been put in because of his ability or his background. He's got nothing. Stop throwing the ball. Run the ball and win this game.
Well, but again,
I
they ran
know.
the ball, but it was the pass that got them in the position to win the game. So I don't know. I think that there are times when I got to trust that the coaches know their personnel better than Manning or Joe Buck or Troy Aikman or anybody. That the coaches know what they have, know what the limitations are. They see these guys every day. They know what they can do and they know what they can't do.
And
And
I don't know if you agree with this, but the Jets have the new coaching staff that came in with Saleh when he was took the job from the 49ers. And it's I know they tried to emulate the 49ers efficiency and game plans, but in your mind, have they achieved that? Have they changed the culture?
well, I think they changed the culture a bit. I think that what they did also, though, is they brought in a lot of. I mean, how many coaches did they bring in from Green Bay? Didn't they bring in like 3 coaches from Green Bay as well,
You wanted
along
that
with
was a support staff for the
yeah, they
quarterback.
brought in Nathaniel Hackett, who was the head coach in Denver that got fired, then went over to Green Bay as the offensive. I don't know if he was the coordinator. He might have been a QC coach, but he's on that staff, and I think there's 2 other guys that might have gone over from Green Bay to the Jets as well. So, do I think the coaching staff is different since Salah went over there? Yeah, I mean, but the coaching staff has been different when every coach has gone there.
And those moves were
And
made to keep the quarterback happy and on the same page, and he didn't have to learn a new system.
right. I mean, again, you had a marriage here that brought in a lot of different pieces. And were those pieces all going to meld together?
A lot of in-laws.
We don't know. We don't know. Was everybody going to be at one big happy family? We don't know. I know it was an unusually quiet hard knocks season. Because the Jets were on hard knocks. And I knew that you didn't hear much controversy coming out of it. And no controversy from a team from New York
Doesn't
is
make
always a
sense.
good thing.
Doesn't make sense, but it's a great thing.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't believe, it's almost unbelievable, but it is something that you have to think about, and you have to look at did everybody get on the same page here? Hey, I wish them luck, man. I hope either the kid does well or they find somebody, they dig a rabbit out of a hat somewhere and they make they make a season out of it. This is a team that was expected, like I said, many people had them pegged to go to the Super Bowl. I didn't buy that. I do buy that they could have a winning record. That they could be a team with 10 wins under their belt. That would have been easy with Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be much more difficult now, but the one good thing about this team is they have a defense.
They do have a defense. They have genuine defense.
And as I saw with the Steelers, over watching them over a number of years, that a strong defense can do a lot for you. Can make
By the
you win
way,
games that you had no right winning.
do you have any idea what the reaction was to the Steelers losing
It
dramatically to the
was
49ers?
not pretty. I mean,
It,
I could tell you, Pittsburgh is a city almost more than any other city that lives and dies with the Steelers. They absolutely live and die with the Steelers. So if the Steelers lose, the only people that are happy on a Monday morning are the sports talk hosts
we're on
because
the air.
it's just going to be one of those days where you're just pushing buttons. You're just letting people vent, and everybody has their reasons. Everybody has somebody that they want fired. Most of them will be Mike Tomlin. Most of them want to see Mike Tomlin fired. And I think there is still a lot of prejudice in Western Pennsylvania. And there are still a large number of Steeler fans
This is the
who
time
will
when
just not like him because he's a black coach.
now's the time that they say, I never liked him. I
And
told you
they'll
I never
hang it
liked
on
him.
him.
Never liked him since day one. I told you you made the wrong move.
And I, for one, would love to see them fire him and for the Seahawks to run right out to Pittsburgh and sign him so that when if Pete Carroll goes this year, as many people expect him to do, that he will be right there to take his place. I think Mike Tomlin, he doesn't have all of he's got what, 3 Super Bowl appearances? No, 2. 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 win, 1 loss. And I think he's one of the best coaches in the league.
Do you think
His
Pete will stay
only
in the
fault
office?
is some time management issues that I think every coach has in one way or another. But we'll see what.
Will Pete stay in the office or will he retire?
I don't know. I got no idea. I'm not as close to the team anymore. Obviously, I'm not going out there all the time and talking to them, so I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know for sure he's gonna retire, but I mean, you're coming to a point where if you don't have the horses to win the Super Bowl, why not get out of the way and let somebody, take over the rebuilding? What is Pete, 71?
If you look at I think he's older than that, but let's say 71. He's smart enough and has enough experience to look at his team and say, we're not going all the way this year.
Yeah.
A coach would never say that to you or to me, but to himself, he knows what a winning team looks like. And he probably says, I don't know if we have the horses.
Well, they certainly didn't have them this weekend. I mean, that debacle, what happened in that second half of that game, I didn't watch the game. I just listened to it on radio. And it just sounded like there was a full collapse, on each side. I mean, they couldn't get anything going offensively.
Visually, it looked as though the Rams just had more players on the field at all times. It's like they were playing an uneven game.
Yeah, and I don't, again, I didn't see the game, so I'm not going to comment on Geno Smith or what I thought of the offense. But when you look at the game summary and you see punt in the second half, that's never a good thing. That means that you guys could not get anything out of your offense. You certainly couldn't do anything on third downs.
It always drives me crazy to see a team that can't convert third downs. Of all the talent and all the experience and all the preparation, they cannot get a first down to save their soul. And they don't even look like they're threatening to get a first down. That's when you just say, well, it's not our day. I don't know who these guys are, but it's not the Seahawks.
Well, I think it'll remain to be seen what happens. As people know, I'm a fan of Geno Smith. I'm not enough of a fan of Geno Smith to say that they should have gave him the money that they gave him, or that his talent is commensurate with the money that they gave him. But I could be wrong. I'm still shocked that he's the quarterback this year, and that they have put their faith in him. But
and it's tough. It's tough to be a consistently star quarterback for Geno or for Aaron Rodgers, for instance. Aaron Rodgers had 4 plays, but he got sacked twice. And this was supposed to be a Jets team that was going to protect him, specially designed to protect him. And the Bills, who didn't have a particularly good game, got to him right away. Now, if you get to Geno Smith in that fashion, doesn't matter what kind of quarterback you think you have or might have or prepared, he doesn't have time to throw a button hook to the flank. He hasn't got time to. They're meeting his running backs in the backfield, and that sort of penetration and one-sidedness is something that the Rams can can on occasion, led by Donald, uh, bring to bear on a quarterback. Just chase him all over the parking lot, and that happened. That happened that day.
Yeah, they're yes, they have some things that the Seahawks that I'm sure that they are looking at today as they get ready to go to Detroit and play the Lions.
They're revitalized Lions.
Revitalized Lions. Again, I mean, this is a team. The Seahawks are a team that you certainly don't want to see them go 0-2.
No.
Seahawks were a great story last year because nobody expected them to do anything. And they wound up with a winning record and wound up going to the playoffs. And Geno Smith wound up having a stellar year statistics wise.
He won the job.
Yeah. So he's got to come through. He's got to take up the mantle of leadership in this team. But they have an offense that has to come through. They got a defense that's got to come through. I mean, there's a lot of questions on the Seahawks.
But there's some stars. Like Metcalf didn't get the ball enough that day, and he's a factor because he's so huge, both as a runner and as a receiver.
And I remember last year, I forget which game. I think it was the playoff game. I mean, Will Dissly was one of their most consistent. The tight end was one of their most consistent ball carriers and one of their most consistent scorers. And he was virtually absent in that last game. I mean, I think it was the third quarter before they threw to him.
And the West Coast offense, as you know, Vinnie, is tight end heavy. You can't
predicated on tight ends.
That's right.
It's predicated on you putting, 2 or 3 tight ends out there and keeping the other team guessing as to which one you're going to throw it to. And the one that you're not throwing it to is blocking for it. Is blocking for you, knocking people down.
Correct, sir. Absolutely correct.
And that's part of the whole Bill Walsh, West Coast offense is that you keep them guessing. You move the ball short, you keep throwing under, and you keep them guessing. And, it's better to move the ball up the field 10 times in short passes and get your 90 yards that way than it is to move it up in one long,
And the answer to the question is, can you achieve a first down, even if it's 4th and 4? And the answer has to be yes with that short passing game. And you have to be able to say, I got 20 plays that'll get that job done.
Bill Walsh never had a fear on 4th down.
No.
Never had a fear. Whether it was 4th and 20 or 4th and 2 or 1 or inches, Bill Walsh, now God blessed him with the right players.
He managed to have Jerry Rice and Clark,
Joe Montana and then Steve Young. So he had the tools, but the 49ers never feared 4th down in the 80s. Just we'll go for it. The kicker's sitting over there. The punter is sitting there going. The kicker's sitting there over there going. Well, I can make it from 40 yards. It's okay. We're gonna get 7 on this one.
Why don't you just get yourself a drink? We'll be fine. We're gonna
get yourself some Gatorade. Sit down. We'll call you when we got to put it through for the extra point. And that was a hallmark of those teams. Is that I mean, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with the record books, but I would suggest that you go back and you look at it, and they probably ran. They probably converted more 4th downs in the 80s and early 90s than any other team.
I like the fact that many college coaches and professional coaches consider the 4th down a real opportunity to achieve something, not just to punt. And it puts the pressure on the offense, but the pressure's always on the offense. Why is the pressure different than if it was 3rd down? Use it to get what you need. If you have to convert, if you have to have that first down to continue the march, use your 4th down to do it.
Well, Michael, I think I may be wrong, but I think that going for it on 4th down, especially with a younger team, instills confidence.
Yes, indeed.
You're telling your guys that nobody's going to stop us from getting a yard. Usually a fourth play is 4th and 2 or 4th and 5 or something like that. I mean, when you got 4th and 20, you're probably not going to do it unless you have Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and assorted tight ends that you can plug in there and do your business. But when you go for it on 4th down, it just puts it shows a confidence in your team that hopefully people take with them.
It also tells the defense, you're an interesting team. You're all professionals. You're going to get paid. We're going to beat you, and here's how.
Yeah, it's on both sides of the ball. It's one of the it's that play that tells your guys that I trust you, and tells the other guy, the defense, the other team, that we can beat you.
And you'd think it would never happen, but some of these guys who are 6'6", 340 pounds can hang their head just like any kid in high school after a play like that. How did it happen? How did that happen to us? How come we couldn't stop them? Why weren't we prepared? Why didn't we fill the gap? Why am I so sad?
Well, it's an awfully mental play.
Yeah.
It really is. 4th down is one of those things that more than any other play, except because when a guy returns a punt for a touchdown, there's a blown coverage, this, that, somebody didn't do their job. When somebody throws the ball into the end zone and it's a touchdown, somebody didn't cover somebody. When you convert a 4th, your unit didn't do something right.
Yep.
Not just one guy. You can't just slough it off. It's everybody that didn't do something right. One guy didn't cover one gap he was supposed to. The other team knew where to exploit a weakness. I mean, it sends you back to the sidelines thinking.
One thing the Jets pulled off was quarterback sneak for a first down, if you recall the game, late in the game. And it was a vital play that they absolutely needed it to continue their drive, and they put it in the kid's hand. And that was a good call because that instilled confidence in the rest of the team. He wasn't just going to stand there and keep his uniform clean. He had to achieve something that a lot of quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo, for instance, was not a good quarterback sneaker. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, is an excellent quarterback sneak.
How did he do for the Raiders this week?
He won. He did very well.
Because it was his debut this week, right?
He played an excellent game. I'm trying to think.
Well, that's good. I mean, I like to see him succeed, except when he plays the Seahawks or the Jets.
Actually, I do too, because he's a lovable guy who
has been through a lot.
Here's the headline. Ex-Raider quarterback Derek Carr visiting the Jets this weekend. Speaking,
I'm sure they're going to march 5 or 6 people through there.
He signed with the Saints but didn't make the team. That's kind of weird.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, well, listen, before we go, I just want to talk a little bit about something to keep an eye on tomorrow. Tomorrow is the deadline for the United Auto Workers to come to agreements with the 3 major automakers in America, Ford, GM, and Stellantis.
Is there going to be a strike?
I don't know, man. It depends on who you listen to. If you look at the automakers, many of them
are willing.
Are it seems like they're coming up with money. The auto workers want a 30% wage increase. We all want a 30% wage increase. I don't think that was going to happen. But what I do see is I see that there's, 13, 14s being thrown around with taking away the tiers so that everybody's making the same money. They have certain new members of the union don't get paid as much as the senior members of the union. It's something that they put in. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think any.
Right now, car availability is so low that the prices are so high. A strike would make the prices go even higher, and then they can
Well,
keep
I
them up
think there's
there.
cars out there, Michael. I don't think availability is the problem. I think that I think that availability of low priced cars is a problem. You
More
have less
expensive
and
car.
less, but if you want to spend $100,000 for a pickup truck, you'll find one easy. Uh, there's the pandemic greed has not gone away yet. And the manufacturers are building high dollar cars because they're trying to fund their electric car research on the backs of pickup trucks and luxury vehicles.
Can the industry make a mistake and go for a strike and be sorry they did, the automakers?
Oh, I think it'll be I think it'd be a disaster. I think a strike would be a disaster for the union, a disaster for the companies, a disaster for the economy.
Then Joe Biden's got to do the right thing. He's got to step in and say the trains are going to keep running.
Well, yeah, you can only do that for what, 90 days, right?
Well, a lot can happen in 90 days.
Yeah, I think that that's something. You hope that cooler heads are going to prevail, and you're going to realize because not only do you have the three automakers that have the unions, but now you have automakers like Tesla and the foreign brands that are down south in places like Georgia and
Yeah.
Alabama and places like that that don't have unions. So they're going to have cars. So if a person can't buy a Chevy
They'll get a BMW.
electric car, a Blazer, or a Bolt, are they going to go to Tesla, who've dropped their prices now, and say, hey, you know what? For $60,000 or $55,000, I can buy this Tesla, and I can get one because it's non-union. I don't care about the union. You might not sell a lot of cars in Michigan or Ohio or maybe even Pennsylvania, but more and more in this country, people don't care about the union.
So if we were playing chess, looking several moves ahead, the auto workers have to assume that a strike would be a disaster.
I think so. I think the last thing they want to do is strike, and I think that the last thing that the automakers executives want to happen is a strike because it will bring a lot of this development to a slower pace or a halt. It'll bring the funding for the development of EVs to a halt. And I think that if you're going to build these EVs, you got to keep going. You got to pay the piper, come up with some kind of deal. If you get away with giving them a 15% increase in pay and sweetening up the benefits a little bit, I think you got to do it.
I think you got to do it. And
Yeah.
Detroit was noted. I think it was Bill Gates or some of the executives on the tech side were noting that Detroit as an industry, as a whole, was one of the worst users of research and development for the future. They didn't research designs, they didn't research technology, they didn't research battery use. They had to learn it on the fly when they had to, but they were not preparing their own research and development for the future like some companies do.
Well, see, if you go back, Michael, 5 years, what was the focus of the auto industry? The focus was not on electric cars. The focus was on autonomous driving. That's what the industry was focused on, making cars that would drive themselves, which
That
was
did
a
not work
huge
out.
misread because Tesla came into the market and they showed that everybody wanted an electric car. Not everybody, but there was a large portion of people out there that wanted electric cars.
Plus, there's this California thing called loving to drive. I'm sure it's going to spread around the country. People are going to get into it. and there's songs about a 409 and a GTO.
Right,
People
right. I
love
mean,
to
a
drive.
lot of people reacted to the autonomous cars by saying that, hey, you know what? I still love to get in my car and drive up the coast or drive
Yeah.
here or go there. And but so they had to take all of the money that they were dumping into autonomous and all of a sudden learn how to do electric.
And how come the industry as a whole reacted wrong? I mean, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler all went in the wrong direction together. How the hell did that happen?
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. Listen, I remember going to an Audi confab in Washington, D.C., where for 3 days they tried to tell us that the best possible pollution um, cutting engine would be a diesel engine.
Ain't gonna
Same guys
happen.
that were fudging the numbers on diesel output
The
for diesel engine.
The Volkswagen fudge.
Yeah, we're telling us that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the automakers know 100%. The only reason they're doing the electric is it's a reaction to Tesla and a reaction to also people wanting cleaner fuels. Government saying that we need to have cleaner fuels. I don't know that the public necessarily is clamoring for electric cars. I think it's getting more and more popular and as electric car, but I haven't seen anybody clamoring for an autonomous driving car.
It's a disaster, especially where they train them or experiment with them in San Francisco. I mean, they've caused accidents, they've caused death, they've caused insanity, they've been hacked. You remember
Yeah, I mean, do you know
they all showed.
anybody? I know lots of people who say, "Gee, I'll try an electric car," but I
Yeah.
don't know anybody who's saying, "Gee, I would love to jump in an autonomous driving car."
I would love to see this back seat's kind of small. There's more room up front. How come the non-driver gets more foot room than I do? He doesn't even have feet.
Yeah, I think it's. I think autonomous driving is a dream for the future. It's something out of Popular Mechanics that were, in 1960, somebody wrote an article saying cars of the future will run on, they also, right next to the article about flying cars. Could you imagine Americans with flying cars? You'd need a freaking helmet and a flak jacket to walk out in the street.
No, it would be coming down. There'd be in-air collisions all right over the 405.
Yeah, yeah. Could you? I mean, I'm sorry, but uh, the system the way it is a good system. It needs improvement. It needs to be tweaked. It needs electric. It needs infrastructure. But putting money in all of these other technologies, I think sometimes can be a pipe dream. But listen, I don't know that the car companies are ill prepared. I know that they were rushed into this. They were pushed into this by a combination of demand and federal regulation.
And the Jetsons cartoons. They said, look, they can do this on television. And the
Right.
guy gets into his helicopter car and goes to work. It's so simple when you look at it
Half
that
of
way.
the executives didn't realize that they were cartoons.
Those are cartoons.
You mean George Jetson isn't real?
What would Superman do about autonomous cars? Did he ever have to deal with that?
He would. He'd probably love it. You know.
Did he drive? Did Superman drive a car?
Well, Clark Kent did.
Clark Kent? Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah, Clark Kent did. But I don't. I don't remember. I'm trying to think. If there was an episode where I seem to remember an episode or two where Superman actually drove. Which
It's
would have
kind of
been
weird when he
interesting because you
could
go
have
down to
flown.
the DMV and to get a license, and you got to show them your birth certificate.
It burned.
Krypton? What are you kidding me? You got to get two people from Krypton to notarize this piece of paper.
And then you
But
bring
there's
it back.
nobody left from Krypton. I don't care.
You're in a world of hurt. DMV. Next.
Go over there. Go sit down over there. They'll call you at window 5.
What's that for? That's the eye test. Oh, I'm Superman. I should be able to pass that.
Holy this! You're wearing your Tuesday underwear and it's Thursday.
By the way, the quarterback for the Jets that I call Derek is named Zach, not Derek.
Oh,
And he went to BYU, so he's wearing magical secret underwear.
So he's regimented. Well, let's
Well,
hope he had his Monday night underwear on. So
he had on the right magic underwear, and
he had the right magic underwear on.
My
All right, what do
advice
you
is
say we do this again on Friday?
it'll be a Freaky Friday. We'll do it. I think I'm going to Big Sur, but I'll be in Big Sur or on the road or one or the other. I'll let you know.
Nice. Have a safe trip, man.
And I got to go around because the Southern Road on Highway 1, we talked about A1A. Well, Highway 1 on the West Coast is interrupted. You can't take it past Gorda, California, and you can't get north of San Luis Obispo because of a massive slide for this winter. Remember all the rain we had?
Right.
Well, it's still being repaired.
So you got to go up through Monterey and go down, right? Or
you got to go across, up to Monterey, across 156 and to Highway 1 into Carmel.
Be careful on that 156, man. That's not a great road if I remember right.
It's sort of an agricultural road. Lots of artichokes. I'll get you one.
Yes, please. I'm dying for a good stuffed artichoke, man. I haven't seen one in a while. I may have to just make myself one. Man, my mother used to make stuffed artichokes that were to die for. You just get that, the breadcrumb on the end of the artichoke.
You remember how to make it?
I don't, but I'm going to have to figure it out.
Anybody can figure it out.
Anybody can figure it out. Whether it comes out right or not, I don't know. All right, Mikey, I'll catch up with you on Friday morning if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise, pal.
This guy makes artichokes that drive themselves. You're going to love it. It's a whole new concept.
An autonomous artichoke?
An autonomous artichoke. Whatever you want. Stuffed, dipped, pot boiled, you name it.
I like that. I am a fan.
It'll cook itself and be ready when you get home.
All right. And always drink that with peace, love, and Manischewitz.
What a wine. See you
Friday,
Mikey.
Have a safe trip.